administrations, because they were supported by the trustees that ran on their ticket. So they had, the mayor should have to swing low. And he would have, if you hadn't defected, and you hadn't defected. It's all about common and narrow senses. It's not about, you don't have to finish, I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead, sir.
You're not thinking about the best interest of the village of Freeport when you abandon his agenda. A man that you voted in his ticket, that's why you're sitting there. All right? That's why you got elected. You sit there, you got everybody dribbles and fighting, and you sit there and say you're doing everything in the best interest of the village. That's hypocritical.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. And for you to say, yes, we ran on the same ticket. We united the community to run. So I'm not here only because I ran on the mayor's ticket. The mayor's also here because I ran with him. So, that's not here nor there. The bottom line is that I did support the mayor. I supported the mayor for 2 years, for 3 years, and until the end of the term, on things that are common ground, and in my opinion, I think are in the best interest of the community. Now, just because me and him have disagreement doesn't mean that I don't support him. Because if I did not support the mayor, every item that was on the agenda, I would have voted no for. And then we would have had the village in a stalemate. So for you to make that statement, you're incorrect.
You're voting no on the agenda items that are important, the nonsensical items that he should be able to make his own decisions on, that you insist on voting for, this micromanagement. All right? Those you vote on. But when it comes to an important matter, like the forensic audit, I'm glad to see you reverse your stance on that. But as far as the forensic audit and the agenda goes, anything important, you go against the mayor.
What do you mean, the agenda? The agenda?
The agenda that...
Actually, the law is very clear. The law says that any trustee, it's just not me, it's not about Carmen Pierre, it's about the business of the village, can request to be put an item on the agenda.
No,
if it's, yes, it is. Section 4412.
That's what I'm looking at.
Do you have section 4412? Read what section 4412 of the village law says.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so then...
You cannot vote on your agenda. It's his agenda.
Okay, sorry, sir. I just want to make it clear so we all understand one another. As far as I'm concerned, I sit here alone, okay? I don't have a trustee that's supporting the mayor's agenda to move the village forward. Two that were on my ticket, for whatever reason they left, because they felt they were rubber stamping or whatever they want to say, that's going to come out as to why they left. And we need to look at some of these newspaper article releases and then some of the application and contracts that did not happen. Then the public can get a real idea as to what kind of people we're dealing with. Because you're not going to ride on my back for free. Madam Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor Hardwick, members of the board, the residents of Freeport. Good evening. Mayor Hardwick, through Channel 18 and 44, has successfully brought government to the people. Now, residents who cannot make it to the meeting for various reasons can see the meetings on TV. So I'm glad the amended resolution will include public comment. I would also like to state that in the past, we had a Freeport newsletter that opened with a letter from the mayor, and there were articles of what was going on in the village, including highlights on the various events attended by the mayor and or the trustees. This newsletter was never edited or required approval by the trustees as to what the content would be. So why now do you find it necessary to edit the mayor's choice of programming for Channel 18 and 44, which is still part of the resolution? This resolution is nothing more than an attempt to stop the public from finding out what has gone on with village finances. Since people have been coming up here to the podium demanding answers about missing funds and other concerns raised by the New York State Controller's audit report, it was suddenly convenient to take public comment off the air, and the trustees now must approve the programming? Really, who are we kidding here? This resolution is self-serving. It has nothing to do with the people. The intent behind it is to keep the public in the dark, to keep us sleeping so that we remain ignorant of the facts. How many of you have heard the old saying, what you don't know won't hurt you? In this case, the trustees have perverted it to favor themselves in that it would say, what you don't know won't hurt them. Ladies and gentlemen, we need Channel 18 and 44 so that all residents can be informed. Never before has this community been so engaged and participating in government until they saw it on Channel 18 and 44. Whether they agreed with what was happening or not, the important thing was that they were informed. And information is power. So my word tonight is power to the people. Let's keep Channel 18 and 44 on the air.
Madam Clerk? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I also am in favor of public comment on TV. I think it should stay there. There's no reason to take it off. While I understand your reasons, Mayor, I have my beliefs, your reasons are why you don't want to be edited. I also understand the trustees' reasons, probably. I have a few suggestions. I think the Board of Trustees meeting should be on the air, the zoning board meetings, and the planning board meetings. And there is the community information and events regarding the village of Freeport can be put up the graphics. You say how the events that show on TV help people come to this community, want to come to this community, and move to this community. People watch this Board of Trustees meetings, people do not want to move this community. Businesses do not want to come to this community. I have a suggestion. Why don't you change how the meeting is run? I believe you should run a meeting, have 4 minutes to speak. After your 4 minutes, you sit down, and you respond to the mayor. That's it. No back and forth. Where you have the back and forth is where you have the problems. You can also do that with the agenda items. Start, before the agenda starts, do 4 minutes. You can speak on any agenda item, and that's it. After your 4 minutes are up, you sit down, and you can answer the questions, Mayor. You won't have the back and forth. You won't have this contentious battle. You won't have people saying things, screaming back and forth. Not that I want to pick on Mr. Miller, but he was here for 12 minutes. 12 minutes, I timed him, 12 minutes. He's supposed to be here for 5. He was here for 12 minutes. It's not good. It doesn't help people to not want to come here. This community would see on TV. We had conventions in the school board meetings. They speak for 4 minutes, they sit down, that's it. You answer the questions, Mayor, it goes back and forth. They'll cut down to 2.5 hours time limit. It won't go 5 hours. You've already been here for 2.5 hours almost. You do 4 minutes, you sit down, it cuts down everything. Do public comment at both meetings. It'll cut down. It'll cut down the time frame. It'll make it easier. It'll be quiet. That's what you want. That's what we want. I think that's what my suggestion. Take that into consideration when you go back and think about this resolution. Thank you.
Point of order.
Paul Martin.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Board. Good evening. I'd like to also acknowledge the police department and the Freeport Fire Department. The great job you guys do day in, day out.
Keep up the good job. Now, an argument has been made to stop airing out the village, an argument has been made to stop airing out the village political discussions from our TV station dedicated to serve the citizens of this great village and town. Well, I stand before you today to remind you why we need it and why airing our discussions on Channel 18 and 44 must continue. One of the greatest rights that our founding fathers gave to all of us in this country is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the political right to communicate one's opinion, ideas by way of speech, and the right to have it heard in a medium that is available and freely accessible to the majority of our citizens. The right to freedom of expression is recognized as a human right under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The United States Constitution guarantees its citizens the right of speech and assembly. By delegating our public discussions on the internet, will prevent a large group of citizens, African Americans, the Latino community, not to mention the elderly, from being informed of local village activities. A lot of our citizens do not have immediate access to the internet, yet all have immediate access to a television station and have been paying close attention to question ways about the possible crimes committed under the Blacken administration. We no longer want to allow anyone to push things under the rug. We want misdeeds exposed, discussed, and solutions reached. We no longer want to be saddled with high taxes for errors that could have been prevented. Had there been exposure and a debate that exposes wrongdoing? Trustee Pinero, Trustee Martinez, Trustee Kenny, Trustee Martinez, I'm sorry. Trustee White's not here. It's not about what you think is right for the tax-paying citizens of this great village, Freeport. It's about what the people of this great village say and see. Work for the people of this great village. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Honorable Mayor, and members of the board, and Freeport residents. My name is Dr. Renee Charles. I am a social psychologist focused on organizational and political psychology. I am also a psychotherapist, a life coach, and I've said that in those orders, and I want to respond to a couple of things that I'm listening to, with specialty in policy analysis. And my question with regards to the policy that is on the book for communication, when you are recommending amendments for policy procedures and guidelines, that has to emerge out of an operating policy. My question is, what is the policy on communication for this municipality? What is the policy that's in statute for this municipality?
Ma'am, please move the mic closer to the doctor, please.
What is the policy that's documented in statute for communication for this municipality? That's question number one. Question or comment, actually, for Carmen Pinero. I want to applaud your efforts for trying to expand the access to Latino population. But as a cultural competence leadership fellow, I want you to know that there are 85 languages spoken in New York. I also want you to know that there are more than one language spoken here. Your presentation of the amendment should have been written in languages that are predominant in this village so that everyone can have access. Access speaks to language. Access speaks to ADA requirements. There's no one here signing. I see that there's something for hearing impaired. There's no one here that's signing. That's communication, that's access as well. There should also have something in terms of dealing with how you manage this disagreement here. It appears to me like a dysfunctional family. I would be willing to render my Clearly, you need an executive life coach. And what I have seen tonight is my first time here. I'm a 37-year resident of Freeport. This is my first time here. I've watched the issues on TV. It needs to stay. Because I can see body language. 85% of communication is body language. I look at body language. It speaks volumes.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Please stay in the mic. We can't hear you.
Okay, I haven't been at a lot of the meetings, but I just want to comment on,
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
make,
Ma'am.
I would just like to make the comments based on the channel 1844. I don't know if it's going to be approved today, but I think that if it is approved, it should be
We're
effective.
not gonna hear you.
It should be effective March 2013 under the new administration. I think it's not totally prepared. It has to be, it takes more involvement to come up with procedures like this. It's not prepared. And I think it really should be it should be revised by a committee that's selected based on the services of the Public Relations Department of the village. And like the other lady that just came before me said about the communication statutes, if those were followed, it probably wouldn't have been the big discrepancy with the mayor saying that the paper was put on his desk and he was unprepared and knowing that it was supposed to be received that day. And it says something about the equipment kept at the village hall. If the equipment is leased or owned by the village, then that means the person that does the media needs to be an employee of the village if it's the village's stuff. I think that needs to be looked into. And if advertisements were on the channel 14, 18, that would be a way to get some money. And it seems like to me that if the agenda takes place in March 2013, that'll be enough time to come up with requirements of how the RFP is developed. I don't think it's prepared enough. And then you need definitions so people can know what certain things mean. And then it says something about recorded unless a resolution, it says recorded unless a resolution first has been adopted. You need the resolution to be part of the current document. You need everything prepared first and then decide to approve it. It's not prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My question was
question, ma'am, was, please come back to the mic.
My question was, what is the policy for the municipality on communication?
Council, would you have that?
No, I wouldn't, and discuss the legal issues and conflict from this.
Right. What I can tell you as the mayor is that during my tenure here, it has always been the policy for that to be dealt with from three sources. One, the public director's office in conjunction with legal counsel's office and the mayor's office. Between the three, we would come up with an antidote to whatever was going on so that we would stay within the guidelines of the law. And that was done from day one.
It's not consistent with how policy is developed.
Well, and the reason I'm giving you that small size answer is because we don't have those rules and procedures right now, but there's a legal guideline that guides the village as to how they can move through the meeting. And the number one policy is that no one in the village can speak on the village's behalf without going through legal office and being authorized there from the mayor.
So when you would add as an addendum guidelines and procedure, it has to emerge out of the foundational policies. And so I'm questioning how this particular amendment gets to.
Okay, now I answered your question, and we can't go any further. I just wanted to answer your question. I can't take any further.
May I answer that question also, sir, if you don't mind?
Yeah, but she can't.
I'm
give you-
responding. No,
He's just gonna give you a response.
In answer to that, there's two issues that are here. One is the motion 1844, and one is the right of a trustee to make a motion to have an item put on the agenda. So in the first item, in the past, specific issues were withheld from the agenda, which prevented the trustees from legally making a decision or a vote on an item that should have been on there. At the mayor's discretion, he refused to put this on the agenda. Although this was illegal and it was not put on the agenda, it deprived the trustees from legally making a vote they were required to make on that issue. For that reason, we researched the law, and the law said that trustees can make a motion at any meeting, providing they vote on it, and the vote is the majority rules in favor. That was done in this application. The motion was made, the trustees voted. That's how it went. That's exactly what it is. So the issue of 1844 is not necessarily the same as the right for a trustee to make a motion. That is the answer I think you're looking for. The trustees are legally allowed to make a motion at a meeting, provided that the majority of the board votes yes. As far as 1844 goes, that should be up for discussion, where everybody has input on this, and then the decision would be for the board to agree to 1844 and not agree to 1844.
I'm prohibited from responding, but I
Yes.
suggest you get a researcher on the board that understands the policy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. And before we leave, I just want to make it clear that one, we have a couple more items on the agenda, and two, there has never been any form, document, procedure, or way for a trustee to add anything to the agenda. There's never been. And up until the night that Trustee Kennedy threw those rules and procedures out at the end of the meeting and wanted to vote on them to be adopted immediately, is the way they read. That had never taken place before. And that's the reason that I chose not to accept it, because there has never been any such procedure performed in that fashion here before. Not during my tenure, and not during the tenure of any other mayor that I know of. And I sat here with two mayors for a while. I've never seen any such thing. To date, we have no forms of documentation whatsoever that say that the trustees can come out at a meeting and just throw a motion out there and have it voted on. We have nothing in our archives that show that that's happened. So it's kind of like hard for me to swallow. In the midway of my term, people begin to change policy. That's a problem for me. So I just want the public to be clear on that. It's not like I'm trying to block the board, but I'm following procedures that I've been following from day one. Okay?
Mayor, actually, there is procedures. They were enacted on February 27, 1995 by motion made by then trustee Lithgow. And in those regulations, if you look at it, it was researched, it's in the minutes, and if we go back for many years, trustees in the past have made motions to place new items and items of the agenda and voted on and discussed at that time.
Well, that could be, but what I'm saying to you is that that's almost 20 years ago, and there's no documentation here where it happens.
But
None. Okay, and that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I understand what you said, but you said that there's no recollections or.
And I think if there's such a document, you should give that out to the public so they can see it. Maybe we need to use that as a vantage point to start from.
Okay.
You know?
I
If
have it,
there's
I'll have it
such
for the
a
next meeting.
I think that's very important.
I have a copy for the next
Put it with these procedures and see how that could be adopted with it, or if it has any merit whatsoever. But up until that night, not you or any of these other trustees brought anything in terms of adding to the agenda during my administration. It's never happened before. So, Madam Clerk, where are we?
We have a motion from trustee Pinheiro, seconded by trustee
And that motion was to do what?
approval of the procedures guidelines on channel 1844 as amended.
Hold the board.
Trustee Martinez,
In favor.
trustee Pinheiro,
In favor.
trustee Kennedy,
In favor.
Mayor Harbert.
Opposed? And for those residents that would like to come to court on the 21st, we'll be back in court at, I believe it's 11 a.m. Call my office for the times. Please let your neighbors know. It's imperative that we show up in the courts and let them know how we feel. This is about you. It's about your money. And like I say, whenever people can't see eye to eye in politics and they can't get along, it's always about money. Remember that. I told you. Okay, what else do we have?
Appointment of trustee Martinez to deputy mayor, set term to expire May 1st, 2013.
So moved.
No, I waited.
Need a motion?
You know, that's the mayor's appointment. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, move on.
Electric department. Request approval to amend the existing purchase of the 2012 4300 SBA Forward to Digger, Derrick, and Toyota Truck Sales Inc., 1561 Stewart Avenue, Westbury, New York, 11590, for an additional $18,650 for an option to exceed amount of $198,619.
Hold that, Madam Clerk, I'm going to have to read it again. Just so that the residents here know, I've just been informed by our police department that they and the fire department are working a very serious situation from South Brookside to our southernmost boundaries. Flooding is severe. We put out a message earlier today by robocall informing the residents that for the next few days, we're going to have extensive flooding.